Hello everyone, this is Trevor, and we are going to start on the third SQL injection lab. Alright, so this is a union attack, and we have to determine the number of columns returned by the query. It's in the product category filter. The results from the query are returned in the application's response, so we can use union to get data from other tables. The first step is to determine number of columns being returned, and then we'll go on to construct the full attack to solve the lab, determine the number of columns. Okay, so that's pretty much it. No problem. All right, let's, like we've done many times now, or in all of the previous ones, let's start off in MySQL. We'll do select asterisk from actor, limit 10. All right. So let's write what I think the query looks like. I think it looks like select. Let's do actor ID, first name, last name, where first equals ed. I think it looks something like that. Unknown column, actor ID. Is it just unknown column, actor ID? I don't know what's going on here. Let's just I don't have the table. Actor ID from actor where first name. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. So this is what I think the query looks like, and I think that our injection point is right here. What we want to know is to determine how many columns are returned by using a union attack. So this looks something like this. Again, we're going to start off with a single quote, and then we can do union select, and let's start with null. I'll do my double dash space, comment out the rest of the line. What I expect is for this to return an error, and that's because what we're union selecting on the the right side is not the same number of columns, which is 3 on the left side. And we do get an error saying they have different number of columns. So if we put in the correct number, null, whoops, you can see we get a valid response, and the final result is our 3 nulls. So it did take the union of both the right side and the left side here. All right, so we were able to determine the number of columns, or what was a success, by how many nulls we put in. And that's really all we have to do for this first one. But just let's dig into this just a little bit more, and then we'll review it when the time comes. But if we now know the number of columns, we need to figure out the types of columns that they are, or if what we're going to try to get from the database is compatible with the type it is. So in this first one on the right, I put the letter A. On the left, it has actor ID, which is a number. I don't think this is going to work, and that's because actor ID, an integer, and this varchar or character here is not going to be compatible types. If I select, and it did work. Interesting. The other two are definitely going to work because they are string or character types. So those are going to be compatible. To verify that, we can just do A and A. And you can see we get all A's back. So in this specific query, I could, select anything in either of these, in all three of these fields, and it would return just fine. I don't know if there is... Let's try maybe category. Select, this is from category. Limit 10. Category ID, it's probably the same. I don't know why that this is compatible, this actor ID. I assume because it is, category ID is going to be the same. Oh, but we have a date here. That's probably not compatible. Let's try select category ID name last update from category where name equals action. And then we'll do union select. And we're selecting 3. So let's try A. We are getting 3 right. Yeah. Okay. No, that was compatible too. You can see it worked just fine. All right. Well, unfortunately, I can't show where it won't work, at least with MySQL. So let's get on to the exploit. We know what we want to do, and it's something like this here. We start off injecting a single quote, union select null, comment out the rest, add the space. If that fails, we add on a second null and a third, and so on until we finally get a 200 response. And then we know how many columns are being how many columns are in the select statement by the number of nulls that we had to add. All right, let's do this. Before we get into writing the new script, I do want to clean up just a little bit, and mostly in utils. So I want to take this out. We don't want to configure the logger in here. We're already configuring it in the script that we run. So I'm going to remove that. And I think I want is solved move to shop. So let's put that in here. Kind of makes sense to me that, this is in the class and not just a normal util. It'll allow us to do some cool stuff too, where we don't have to provide proxy info because we already have this info. We don't need to provide it. Is solved. Again, we don't need to provide this. If self dot no proxy, but we do need self. I don't know if we need self here. I think so. Quest self dot base base URL self dot base URL, and utils.proxies is solved. I'm going to remove all of this and put self. And time, we need to add that, is solved self import time. All right, that should now work. And from here, we don't need these, and we're no longer doing any requests. So we can delete those. We can delete this because we're no longer doing any requests. We don't have that. Okay. So we cleaned up that. We added this method to the shop class, and that's to check if it's solved. Awesome. Let's go back to here and let's start working on the new script. So the lab that we're doing, I'm going to name it determine number of columns. Determine number of columns. Hi. And let's clean up our template a little bit also. What did I want to clean up from here? There was something I thought. I don't know what it is. This looks fine to me for now. All right. So let's put that here. We know that based on the description, it's in the product category filter. So let's take a look at what that request looks like, so we know what we're going to inject. All right, and we can actually, validate the SQL injection. All right, so this is what it looks like. If I do a single quote, we expect an error. We get one. If I do a second single quote, we expect that it to succeed if this is vulnerable to SQL injection. And it does succeed. Awesome. So it's a get request and just this. Let's grab that. All right, so we want filter path equals single quote, and remember what I said, union select, and then here is where we want our nulls. I don't know what those are yet, so we're gonna put nulls, and then we're gonna put dash dash space. That looks good to me. To do the exploit, we're gonna do requests.get, and we're gonna do base URL, or we should do create a shop equals shop, and from shop import shop dot base URL. Whoops. Plus filter path response equals, we can check if the response, if response dot status code equals 200, then we can check if it's solved. Shop dot is solved. All right. So now we just need to determine the number of nulls. We want this in a list, a loop, because we don't know how many nulls we're going to do. In fact, if the status code is greater is 200, I'm going to actually break out of the loop, and let's, whoops, we want this one outside the loop. So I'm going to set up a counter here. Counter equals, we'll start with 1, and then I'll do for x in, well, we don't need a counter actually. For I in range, we'll start at 100 and we'll go to 50. Count, we don't need that because we're just going to return I. And then in Python, you can do null. Oh, we want to separate it by commas. So how are we going to separate it by commas? Let's create a list. So, and then we'll do join the list. That looks good. That, I think that's right. So nulls equals, let's start here. Nulls equal, and we'll start it with 1. And we'll do this, and then we'll say nulls list equals nulls equals comma dot join nulls list. This is going to add a comma to the end as it joins this list. Let me just show you here. So I'm going to put A equals null, 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 right? And if I do comma dot, is it dot join? I think that's right. Join A. You can see how we get commas in between, not at the last one. And that's what we want. All right, so we've got nulls list that starts with 1. We have I that range. Do we need this? Not sure quite yet. So we're going to add that here. Oh, we need to nulls list. We want to check it first. If status, we're going to break, and otherwise we're going to do nulls list plus equals null. So we're going to add another one. No, we want not plus equals. We want nulls list dot append. All right. We're going to append that here. I'm going to add an F string here. Before I send this, I want to print. Let's save exploit URL equals shop.base URL plus filter path print exploit URL. So let's see what it looks like. Just to make sure I've got it working here before we try to do the whole thing. So let's see, Python determine, and we'll do AAA as the site. Shop init. Oh, duh. All right, so we need URL args dot URL args dot no proxy, and we need a session. Let's do I don't always want to provide a session, so let's put equals none. So if there's no session provided, it won't error out. Invalid a. All right, that's fine. I don't know where this prepare. Where in our code? Oh, is solved. That's fine. But you can see that that it actually worked. It looped through, so that was good. We can delete this, and I think break is the right. I'm gonna look that up because I'm not sure. For x for I in range, and we want. We know the number of columns by the length of nulls. Log.info. Number of columns is, and we can put nulls list len of nulls list. All right, I can't remember if break's the right thing or not. So Python exit for loop. Yeah. It looks like break is the right break statement. Exit out of a loop. Looks like what we want. All right. So just review this. Doing shop. We're creating a list of nulls. We're starting with 1. We're going from 2 to 51, which we don't need this. We just need while true, because we don't use I anywhere, but we don't want it to go on forever, so we'll need to do while true, nulls, we join them, we create the exploit URL, we need to get it here, exploit URL, and we need to if args.no proxy, we're going to do this, else we're going to do response equals requests dot get exploit URL, proxies equals utils dot proxies, and verify equals false. All right, if the status code is 200, we're going to break out of the loop and we're going to append a new one here. Here I want to check. I don't want it to go on forever, and currently it will. So, excuse me. What we can do is len if len of nulls list is greater than 50, break, we can do log.error could not determine number of columns greater than 50. And then we'll do sys.exit, and might as well just tell it, do a -1 there. All right, and then so it's going to exit. If the response code is 200, we're going to stop. If the length of the number of nulls is greater than 50, we're going to exit the script. If neither of those are true, we're going to append another null and loop back through. Oh, you know what I can just do? While len of nulls, yeah, is less than 50. If somebody saw that out there and was like, duh, why don't you just... Yeah, sorry. All right. So we don't need this anymore. Now, we need to know if we solved it. So, num columns. We don't want to determine the number of columns just from nulls list anymore. Equals none. If the response code is 200, num columns equals len of nulls list. All right. If num columns, then we're going to put this. And the reason I don't want to use num, the length of nulls list anymore, is because if we go through all 50, num columns, or the length will be 50, and it'll never, this will think it's solved with 50 columns. Now, because we're only setting the num columns if we get a 200 response, this will only be printed if num columns has a value. So that's why I wanted to change that up. If the number of columns is else log.info could not determine number of columns. All right. So that looks reasonable to me. Oh, argparse. That's what I wanted to remove from the template. That. All right. So just to review, create our thing. We create a list, start with 1. We create a variable to hold the number of columns. We loop through while the length of our list is less than 50. We're going to join the list, and we're going to select that. We're going to get that request. If the request responds to 200, we're going to say the number of columns equals the length of nulls list, and we're going to break out of this loop. And then if not, we're going to append the string null to our nulls list and loop through again. And then we're just going to log the info that we found. And, let's check if solved. Oh, we did. Right there. Ha! All right. Looks good to me. Let's see if we got it. Make sure our thing is still live. It is not. All right, while this comes up, make sure to like, subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing. And then Python. Determine. All right, do you think this is going to work first try? I think so. I'm confident about this one. I think we got it. So let's see. I don't like that we don't have any logs. Hey! Boom, first try. The only thing I don't like is that we didn't log anything to start with. Log.info. Let's see. Determining number of columns. And then yeah, that's fine. We'll just do that one. Add to it. Determining number of columns. Number of columns is 3. Checking if solved. Lab is solved. Looks good to me. All right. So this, we're not going to add this to the class, shop class, because this isn't. We may want to add some URL for, or some part to get, like, move this part into the shop so that we have a shop.get category, something like that, and then we it expects this as an input. I can see us doing that, and then move. Yeah. All right. So I think we'll do that. Let's do it right now, as a matter of fact. So we're going to do def get category. And then we're going to do URL equal category filter equals self.base URL plus this all right, so this is our normal, and then we can do the we need to add on. So we're going to do F for an F string, and we're going to put category here. So we're getting the base URL. We're adding in this path, and that'll be our category filter URL. That's fine. And then we will do this. If self.noProxy, change word category filter URL, else response equals change word category filter URL, and then we will just return response. That looks reasonable. So here, nulls, we can just do filter path. Instead of this, we can do category equals, and then we're going to take all of this out. We're going to send that. We're going to remove this. And we're going to do response equals shop dot, what I'd name it, get category. Get category. All right. Request used, imported but unused. All right, that looks good to me. We moved that functionality to the shop, but still gave it enough, functionality that we can still exploit it from everywhere. So that looks good to me. Let's make sure this is still live. It is perfect. and we'll verify our script works. So Python determine. Paste in that. Looks good to me. All right, another one done. Thanks you all for joining. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Goodbye.